Lacey.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome to Monster Soup and Creature Brews, the podcast where we talk about all things monster movies, big, small, creepy, or downright ridiculous.
From movie monsters to cryptids lurking in the shadows of folklore, we're here to explore them all. So kick back, grab a snack,
or a drink,
and let's dive into some monster-filled mayhem.
Just a heads up, this is a kids edition of the Monster Soup and Creature Brews podcast, which means that it will not include a Monsterverse moment, nor a Chat GPT explains it badly, and it will be kid friendly. Our daughter, PJ, really wants to participate and be included in the podcast. After some thought and discussion, Sam and I have decided that every so often we'll watch a family-friendly movie all together and then allow her to participate in the recap with us. We'd love to have you stick around, but if kids' movies aren't your thing, we'll see you next week for our regular adults-only episode. On tonight's episode, we're going to be discussing Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, and Sam's going to start us off with the official synopsis.
A shy 16-year-old girl learns that she comes from a fabled royal family of legendary sea krakens, and that her destiny lies in the depths of the waters, which is bigger than she could have ever imagined.
And now our special guest host for tonight, PJ, is going to give us her quick description of the movie.
Well, Ruby thinks she knows she's a kraken, but she doesn't know what lies under the sea, and she doesn't know she can turn into a giant kraken.
Alright, so the movie opens up with the narrator going over a brief history of sea creatures, known to be legends, and how the stories might not be as accurate as you might think they are. And then they use a kraken as an example, saying lore, they're basically a menace, but in reality, they're actually protectors. And then we meet our protagonist, Ruby Gillman, who's being woken up by her best friend Margot, where we learn that she wants to go to prom, but prom is on a boat, and her family has rules against being in, on, or near the water, so she has to somehow convince her mom to let her go to prom on said boat. And if you didn't catch it by the title, Ruby isn't a normal teenager. She's a sea creature, known as a kraken, in disguise as a human. And a running theme in this movie is one that Ruby loves math. And so be prepared for a lot of math jokes and calculations. And then Ruby records a video outlining why she should be allowed to go to prom. And she shows it to her mom, and her mom still says no. And then her mom sees her reading a magazine called Marine Biologist Digest. And it states that humans don't know anything about what's under the sea, and that everything in there is pretty much fiction. The reason they stay on land is because the sea has monsters that want to hurt krakens. That's her excuse for them not going to the ocean or whatever. And then she heads out. The other running joke in this is that they're Canadian.
That is actually my favorite thing about this whole movie, is that anytime anybody in this movie notices something unusual with the Gillman family, they just say, oh, we're from Canada, or we're Canadian. Everybody's like, oh, okay, makes total sense.
Oh, yeah, they accept it without batting it out. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Which makes me wonder how this movie was received in Canada.
Was this movie made in Canada or not?
No, this movie was made by DreamWorks. And
yeah.
I think that they're a US-based company.
How does everyone not know she's blue and everyone else is like normal brown and tan?
I think it's a running joke that Americans don't know anything outside of America. So if you use being foreign to be as an excuse, they're just like, oh, okay, I see. So that's how it is in Europe, or that's how it is in Canada.
I think the tentacle hair is more noticeable than anything, but moving on from their appearance.
One more thing is, how did not anyone notice? I feel like she would have something slimy on her because she's from the ocean.
Well, it's not like people touch her. If they don't touch her, how do they know she's slimy?
Because I feel like someone would touch her every once in a while,
No, she's pretty slippery. She's really good at dodging people. She's shown that in the show. That's the first thing that happens right after I mentioned that is there's like a tour bus that's going by, and they're like, oh my god, she's blue. She's like, I'm from Canada, eh? She shows a Canadian pin, and they're all like, oh.
Canada, makes total sense.
Right after that, she gets a group call from her friends, and she lets them know that her mom said no, that she can't go to prom. They'll have to do something else, like do an anti-prom party. And then her friends proceed to crush her soul, saying, well, we're still going, regardless of whether you can go or not. And then she finally meets up with them, and they have a long conversation about how her mom's anti-ocean sentiment has kept them from doing a plethora of activities. And then they proceed to list off all of these things that they've had to miss out on because she's not allowed to go towards the ocean.
I actually felt bad for her friends in this moment because some of the activities did seem really cool and a lot of fun, and they missed out on a lot in support of Ruby.
A lot of them were things that we've done, like when we lived in Florida. Mm-hmm. So I kind of get it.
How does so much things include water? Are they in Florida?
It doesn't actually say where they're from, just that it's on the ocean.
Yeah, if there's anything that's near the coast and that's where you live, a lot of activities will revolve around that because that's all there is to do when you're that close to the water. People who like do jet skis, go fishing and all that stuff, a lot of them are really close to the water. So naturally, the school, when they're looking for activities to do with the children, will do a lot of water-based activities because there's a lot of things revolving around that. But her friends don't completely leave her in the lurch because they give her the great idea of just going and not telling her mom. So you would think it would take a lot of convincing since she seems to be very straight-laced, but she's pretty much like, you're right, I don't have to tell her. And so then they proceed to figure out, what do we do next? And she's like, well, I want to ask somebody out, of course. And then they start going into these promposals, which I don't know anything about. This must be like a newer trend. I'm old.
Well, Facebook came out after you and I graduated high school, or right around when we graduated high school?
It came out when I just started in high school. So I had a, or not Facebook, I had a MySpace. I had a MySpace right when I got into high school, and then Facebook became public right as I got out of high school.
I think it's a social media inspired trend to do things big like that when you ask people stuff.
Let's record ourselves and put it on social media.
Used to be just passing a note in math class.
Right? What happened to those? Cell phones.
It depends really on the student. If it's like a boy that really wants to take out the girl, they go big, full out.
Yeah, in this movie they do for sure.
And so she went a little more simpler with a calculator asking out her boyfriend.
Yes. Well, actually, it's the guy that she's tutoring. His name is Connor. And she wants to do like a math equation where she solves it and then it spells out prom using a graphing calculator. Her friends say that that's lame. So she has to do something really big and spectacular. And she's like, okay, I guess. And they eventually convince her to do that. And she gets like a little confetti gun. She's going to make a big deal about it. When she actually gets to Connor and is getting ready to ask him, he's like, have you seen those promposals? They're all really dumb, aren't they? Why can't people just ask people? So then she decides to change her mind, and she's like, well, I guess I'll just ask him. She panics, and instead of asking him, she kind of tries to run away, but then the confetti gun that she's carrying drops on the ground. And
nearly murders Connor.
Yeah, he picks it up, and he's like, what is this? And then boom, it explodes in his face and knocks him into a skateboard, which knocks him off the pier.
I have one comment. If he goes down in the ocean, if the current's like that, I feel like he wouldn't be alive after that. He was a little bit of a
The currents were very aggressive. There was like a swirl of riptides all just circling around each other.
I don't know how the new girl, Chelsea, caught him.
She didn't. So what ends up happening is...
Like saw him in the currents and Ruby, I meant.
Well, I mean, she's just probably under the water. For all we know, she could have just been close by when it happened. But he falls into the water. Ruby is like, I don't know what to do. Should I jump in? And then at the last second, she decides to jump in. And she gets caught away in the current too. But at that moment, a giant pulse goes out. And she transforms. And she saves Connor, throws him up on the shore, and then runs away. It comes off as if she can't remember what happened in that brief moment. Because she washes up on shore and she's like, what happened? And then she walks over to where Connor is to make sure he's okay. And that's where we meet Chelsea, who is taking credit for saving Connor.
This in my notes is what I noticed is that Chelsea's not wet and Connor is wet because he fell in the ocean, as is Ruby. And nobody thought it was weird that the girl with dry hair and dry clothes allegedly pulled the boy out of the ocean.
And how did she enroll? Like in a few seconds, she saved Connor.
That's what I'm always looking out for. Is like, this doesn't make sense. How did she enroll in this school? She's just the new girl. I'm like, how did all this happen? Anyway, she monologues for like 5 minutes, saying how great I am, how cool I am, and I saved this guy. Love me. And everybody's just eating it up. And once Ruby gets in and she's like, whoa, what? She makes sure Connor's okay, he's okay, so, and she has like a panic attack because she just transformed. She thinks everyone's looking at her, and everyone is looking at her. And so she sprints away and runs away and hides in the library, where she proceeds to go full Kraken, transforms, destroys the library.
And the librarian may have freaked out a little too much. And
No, she freaked out the right amount.
No, like after it passed for a while, she holded up a book in front of like a cameraman, I think, and I don't know, did she save some books before Ruby basically destroyed the whole library?
I don't think she did.
I think some books were okay, probably because they're just their books, and so as long as they're dry, they can be salvaged.
Yeah.
But I did think it was a really funny moment in the movie when the librarian first sees giant Kraken Ruby, and she puts up her glasses, which make her eyes look big, and then she screams, and Ruby screams, and the librarian screams.
I love the moment where the one book that's out of place is like Pride and Prejudice. What are you doing in the action crime or whatever?
It's in the wrong section, and that's how she discovers Ruby. She goes to put that book away.
But then Ruby goes full Kraken, destroys the library, and starts trying to hide, which I don't know how you hide when you're the size of like a skyscraper.
You're the size of Godzilla.
Yeah.
True.
But while all that's going on, her mother, who's a real estate agent, is trying to sell a house. And right when she seals the deal, she looks across the way and sees a giant ruby stomping across the forest. So she pretty much bucks it out of there, gets in her car, tries to like go get Ruby, hits someone.
This is my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, she hits someone.
Which apparently is her brother.
Yes, Brill. So when Ruby landed in the water, she sent out what's like a calling or an echo or something, and it goes out to everyone in the sea apparently. Grandmama sends Brill to go pick up Ruby so she can meet her granddaughter. The mom, just by somehow complete coincidence, happens to hit her brother with her car. He's okay, so she just stuffs him in the back of the car and goes back after Ruby.
The way the mom pauses and is like, oh man, what did I hit? Hit me in the adult feels.
Oh yeah, you can tell she's been around humans for a long time.
And then she looks back and she's like, oh thank God, it's only my brother.
I feel like it's very shown in this movie that the male Krakens that are from the sea, like are not disguised as human. They're very blobby.
A lot of creatures in this movie are blobby and very bendy.
You can tell because he literally, I think, gets hit in the head with something that can kill you.
Yep.
Yeah. And he just bounces up, all good.
Yep. And just a side note, because I forgot to put this in earlier on, another common point in this movie is that there is a sea captain or a fisherman who swears that he's seen a Kraken before, and he's like kind of like the town crackpot, but he also owns like a tour guide business where he just guides people around the coast and shows them over a bunch of things. It's at this moment that he is touring a bunch of people around and happens to catch a snapshot or like a recording of Ruby, and that comes in later. But essentially, the mom rushes to catch up to Ruby, and Ruby's hiding behind like a giant building that's on the coast. Her mom gets out of the car, talks to Ruby, and says, "It's okay, I'll hang out with you until you can transform back." And she calms her down, and Ruby turns back into human form.
Well, smaller Kraken form. She still looks like a squid person.
And when she gets back home, she gets very mad. Goes up to her room and sneaks out.
Let's jump ahead a little bit, but yes. So when they get back to the house, her mom tries to explain what's going on, why they're not in the ocean, and how there are other things out there that could threaten a Kraken. But her brother does not help with any of this. And once her mom is kicking the brother out, Ruby happens to overhear the brother and the mom arguing. He says, even if she's not going to go, meet mother, at least you should tell her the whole truth. And her mom says, she's my daughter. I'll tell her what she needs to know. You need to go. And obviously, Ruby feels some type of way about that because she's like, my mom's still not telling me the whole truth. Since her mom doesn't want to tell her the truth, she decides to find out the truth on her own. So she sneaks out of the house to try to go track down Brill. She finds Brill at the pier, getting ready to go back to the ocean. He says he doesn't want to take her because that's her mother's decision. So whatever she wants to know, she needs to go to her mother. And she said, I'm gonna do what I want. Jumps into the ocean, turns into a giant kraken.
There's one thing I have to comment on this specific part. Well, before he goes into ocean, he's having a stick snack, aka a corn dog, and all the pigeons are going after it. He has to throw it in the trash, and then he gets it back. All seagulls actually go after him, and then Ruby jumps in the ocean.
Yes, she uses the corn dog to distract Brill from stopping her from going into the ocean. But once she gets into the ocean, Brill's like, well, you're already here. I guess I should take you to go see Mother.
Side note, all birds are terrifying. I live and die by that statement.
I mean, they can be. So after she jumps in the ocean, turns into a giant kraken, Brill reluctantly takes her to the grandmother. Brill kind of like gives her like a little mini tour of like Krakenville, or wherever it is, the underground or undersea realm or whatever.
Their village, I feel like.
There's a lot of them there. Village, I don't think does it justice. Kingdom, I should say.
There you go.
Kraken Kingdom.
Because there's like a lot of krakens there, and probably all the krakens from the human mythology that destroy ships and sink them to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. She gets taken by Brill to see her grandmother, who is the queen of krakens. They do more tour guide-y things. They eat some snacks.
I like when their grandmama, my bad. I like when grandmama makes Ruby sit on her throne and address her subjects, and we get to see all of the like Kraken people in this kingdom. And poor Ruby goes, "I am having a panic attack."
Everyone cheers.
And I think when the grandmama shows her all the dreaded creatures, Ruby's surprised mermaids is on the list, and I'll let Daddy tell the rest of that part about it.
Yes, after her grandmother shows her everything about the Kraken Kingdom, she drops the bomb that Ruby is going to be the queen's successor. And this is when Ruby has a panic attack. But then the queen proceeds to tell Ruby about the duty of Kraken is to protect the ocean. She also kind of goes over the history of like all the other creatures that have tried to dethrone the Krakens, like the Leviathans, and in particular, the huge battle against the mermaids, because the mermaids had found a Triton of power, and that they had to go to war, and that, you know, not all the Krakens made it out of there. And then the queen starts to tell her about the great warrior of their time, which was her mother, Agatha, and how she defeated the mermaid queen and hid the Triton. And as Ruby leaves and heads back home, she gets captured by the crazy fisherman I was talking about that wants to prove that Krakens exist. And then she gets saved by Chelsea, who's actually a mermaid. So they quickly escape and then split up, and Ruby sneaks back into her room and passes out. Ruby tries to sneak out of the house while her mother's having a panic attack, thinking, oh my god, what if she hates me like I hate my mother? It's a slippery slope. And then you proceed to see Ruby try to sneak out the door, and it's like, ooh, bad timing.
During her mom checks in her room during the time she was out, I feel like she should have noticed the little weird dog in her bed that glows pink, not purple.
I do like the little jelly dog thing, though.
I get back to him because, you know, they use him to be the bait Kraken later.
Yeah.
While Ruby's trying to sneak out of the house, her mom says, you know, are you okay? And then Ruby's still kind of salty about her mom hiding things. And
salty kid from the ocean.
Well, her mom calls her out. I was like, do you smell like ocean? Have you been in the ocean?
Definitely not. That's what she probably replies.
Yep. So right after that, she heads out to go meet up with her friends. And it turns out, this is where they find out that there's a little video snippet of her as Giant Kraken that the fisherman has. And at first, it's not a big deal because, you know, he has like no followers. Or he has like 2 or 3 followers or something. But their friend Trevin, who is a game streamer, apparently is going to share the video with his hundreds of thousands of followers. So now everyone knows. Ruby has another mild panic attack and runs to the bathroom, where she hears Chelsea talking with her friends. After Chelsea tells the friends to leave, she talks with Ruby, and Ruby spills about everything that's going on. And Chelsea convinces her to ditch school for a day, and they go running around the ocean. After they go gallivanting for a while, they end up talking about how the mermaids are in hiding, how she hates hiding, so she doesn't. And Chelsea convinces her that in order to bring the mermaids and the Krakens together, she needs to find the trident that her mother hid, and it can be a symbol of peace, which is suspicious if Ruby had taken like 3 seconds to contemplate. How would bringing this symbol of power in as a symbol of peace?
Right there, the only question is, if you're the new girl, I feel like ditching school would be bad because you're noticeable and, well, you basically have a lot of attention. If Ruby would ditch school, I think no one would notice that.
You probably shouldn't ditch school in general, though.
But just saying, I don't think Ruby would notice, but I think Chelsea would be noticed to do that.
Yep, and then it's at this point it cuts back to the mom, dad, and brother who are just now finding out about the viral video clip. And it's at this point that the mom looks at the dad, brother, and her son, and they can tell she's plotting. And in reality, the fisherman is sending out a broadcast or a video saying that he's recruiting people to help him find the Kraken. Agatha decides to tell them to go join the recruitment so they can keep them from finding Ruby. Back with Ruby and Chelsea, Chelsea shows Ruby where the Triton's hidden. It's apparently hidden in a bunch of streams that are all like looped in together. Apparently the Triton's hidden in a bunch of slip streams or something where the mermaids aren't strong enough to get to it. And she says that her mother died trying to get it back. Ruby attempts to navigate the currents, but it isn't able to. So she goes to her grandmother to train her how to use her Kraken powers.
There's one comment. How can she go through like a bunch of giant screams when she just got blown away in the very beginning by a bunch of big screams that are not like really giant?
Well, it's just the way the currents are. So a lot of them they're all pushing out, and she's having to push against the current to try to get to the place where it is.
Also, based on the colors, I'm going to say that those streams are magical.
They kind of feel that way.
That probably prevents mermaids that go in there.
It is true that the currents can do that, though, where they, like, wrap around each other and loop in really weird ways. So it's not unheard of. It's just they use visual effects so we can actually see it.
That is one thing about this movie that I really appreciate is all the colors. It is a very bright, colorful movie. There's a lot of bioluminescence and glowing. It's visually very attractive.
Versus just blue everywhere.
And more blue in the ocean.
Yeah, but she goes to her grandmama to train her how to use her Kraken powers. And then it's just insert training montage. There's like 20 minutes of her practicing with her grandmother and then trying to stream and then practicing with her grandmother. And then after the training montage, Ruby's still not able to get the trident. So when all else fails, she decides to ask her mother how she put the trident in the currents in the first place. And then there's a little quick scene where they cut back to the sailor, dad, brother, and uncle.
Are just sabotaging this poor man.
And here's the part where the little brother of Ruby kicks up that weird stakey thing, and it throws up in the air and goes to Agatha's brother.
Oh, you're talking about where they shoot the spirit? They do that when they sign up to get recruited. This is the part where they're actually pretending that they found the Kraken. They're like, oh, it's the Kraken, and they let the pet dog go swimming, and then they catch it, and they're like, look, it's the Kraken. In reality, it's just their pet. Yeah, it's just their pet dog.
So their dog is, I'm not actually sure what he's supposed to be. He sort of looks like if an axolotl and a puppy were blended together, and he glows pink. He's very cute and squishy looking.
Yeah.
And I just want to, like, hold that puppy. But, like, he looks like something that a Kraken would have, but they're Krakens.
Yeah, it's like an aquatic pet. Like, you could tell it's built for the water, and it kind of looks like a dog.
And it's super cute, and it does not look threatening like a Kraken would look in the human world.
Yep. After that, Ruby tries to introduce Chelsea to her mom, while her mom's having, like, a giant real estate cookout thing.
Barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue. But as soon as she gets up to her mom, for some reason, Chelsea disappears. And then, when Ruby tries to explain that Chelsea's actually a mermaid, her mom freaks out and tells her, mermaids are dangerous, you shouldn't be fraternizing with them. Ruby continues that she's a friend, and her mom denies it, that mermaids aren't your friends. And then Ruby loses it and just transforms on the spot and stomps off. Agatha goes to confront her mother about training Ruby behind her back. When she gets there, she tells her that, one, Ruby's a child. You shouldn't be training her for war. And on top of that, she's made friends with a mermaid. And on top of that, that mermaid is apparently Nerissa's daughter, the old queen of the mermaids.
And she found out right there and then Marissa never had a daughter. That's actually Marissa, but she couldn't get to Ruby in time.
Yep. The queen explains to Agatha that Nerissa never had a daughter. So then they clock that Nerissa's probably this Chelsea girl. It cuts back to Ruby, who's still kind of livid. She catches back up with Chelsea while they're in the water. And Ruby, in her like anger-fueled rage, attempts to get the trident one last time and actually succeeds. And it's just at this point that Chelsea, when she gets her hands on the trident, reveals her true colors and shows that she's actually Nerissa and that she's been waiting to get revenge on Agatha.
Actually, it's 15 years because they keep mentioning I've waited 15 years for this.
Yeah. Nerissa goes back and confronts Agatha and the Queen while Brill hunts down Ruby. Ruby's been trapped under rocks that Nerissa put her under, and she's kind of downtrodden because she thinks she's just made everything worse. So Brill gives her a little pep talk. She breaks out of the rocks and joins her mom and the Queen, who's fighting Nerissa. And this part's pretty quick. Ruby and Nerissa box for a bit. They make a giant wave, and you see Ruby save the prom boat, which was about to get flipped upside down. And then Ruby uses her laser vision and knocks the trident out of Nerissa's hands. And Ruby then convinces her mother and the Queen that if they all shoot their lasers at the same time, they might be able to destroy the trident. After they combine forces to manage to destroy the trident, the old fisherman manages to capture the mermaid. The mom agrees to stop lying and no more hiding. Ruby then transforms back into her human form with a dress, and they do one last giant dance montage. And then, the ending's just, they cut back to, oh, Ruby Gillman, she's our protective Kraken, and then she jumps to the ocean.
Everybody adjusts to the fact that their whole family is not only not human and not Canadian, as they've been telling everybody, but they are in fact all Krakens remarkably well.
And I feel like there would be like a big freak out, like if something new comes out, there's a big freak out for a while, and then like it starts to slow down. I feel like there should have been like a big like explanation for everyone, like a bigger one.
I feel like they're Krakens, Canadian Krakens? That makes sense. They just
okay, don't worry about it.
Canadian Krakens?
Does Canadian even have an ocean?
Canada? Yes.
Okay, that makes sense, but like I feel like they would kind of notice a little bit more about how she literally picks up the prom belt while fighting Nerissa. And like,
oh no, they know it's her. It's not like they're not hiding anymore. They're well aware that they're just giant Krakens.
Alright, so Sam, your favorite character in the movie?
Trevon, the little gamer guy. I just relate to him. I get it.
Okay, so my favorite part about Trevon is, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, on his shirt in the movie, he has the little traditional Kraken symbol.
Yes.
In a circle. And I liked that subtle call out.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the Hydra symbol.
Yeah. Alright, PJ, your favorite character in the movie?
I think I like the little puppy weird thing.
Oh, the little squishy aquatic pet, I keep calling it.
Yes,
water dog.
It's very loopy, and it looks like if you touched it in real life, it would feel like holding next.
It would make a great Squishmallow.
It would make a good Squishmallow.
They have little tentacles coming out too.
My favorite character in the movie is Brill.
Oh, Brill.
The silly uncle.
I think I like Brill.
Goofy.
He's like, nothing can kill him. We definitely experienced that in the movie. Running over a car,
He does come
a
off as
spear
a
hitting him in the face. Yeah,
the face he makes when that spear hits him too is hilarious. His eyes go all cockeyed.
And then they just put a bucket on his head saying, Buckethead.
Yeah.
Alright, overall, Sam, how did you like the movie?
That was a good movie.
PJ, your thoughts on the movie overall? Would you recommend it?
Yes. It was a good movie, and it has a lot of bright colors.
It does. What did you like best about the movie?
The dog.
The dog. Yeah, fair.
She's like, I stand by that. Can't change my mind.
I really liked all of the bioluminescences in this movie and all the artistry in the illustrations I thought were pretty good. The way the characters move, though, reminds me a lot of Hotel Transylvania. I don't know if they're the same studio, but that's what it made me think
like the
of.
swift movements, how they like slide in and slide out and wiggle
like,
and stuff. I would hazard a guess that they're probably produced by the same studio.
Right. I haven't looked it up, but they reminded me a lot of each other, and I like that series of kids' movies, too. All in all, I'd say it was a cute movie, and I'd watch it again.
Yeah, if they ever make a sequel, I'd be happy to go watch it.
It does really remind me, and the little jelly blob and Hotel Transylvania is kind of like the dog. It's just very bloopy and slimy.
So thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast today. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Monster Soup and Creature Brews. And if you like what you heard, leave us a review and 5 stars, and we'll see you again next time.